Hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott, and there's Dave right next to me on the other side of the poster of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. I can't even say it. It's so...
Verge Home.
The Verge Home, the Viger Home. And those of you who've seen the first movie will get that reference and see why it's actually relative to the storyline of this movie.
Yeah, actually kind of is.
It's kind of, I'm just going to get it out of the way. I love this movie. I love it so much. It's so much humor, so much camaraderie with the team. It's just, you're home. This is family. This is who you, Vin Diesel, if you're out there, that's family. So, but it reminds me so much of the first movie's plot.
Yeah.
You have an alien probe coming and it doesn't realize that it's destroying everything in its path. And shutting it down, and it just wants to communicate with. On this one, it wants to communicate with the whales. Still don't know exactly why. I find that
never answer that question to the best of my knowledge. They've never answered that question.
Yeah. So,
cool.
When it comes to Star Trek movies, Dave, where does this rate in your favorites?
Not only chronologically does it come up right after Wrath of Khan, it is probably my favorite right after Wrath of Khan. They got everything down that they need. They got the serious tone, a pretty serious tone. They're all going back to Earth to get court-martialed. Then all of a sudden they up the ante with this alien probe just wiping everything out in its path.
The ante the stakes keep going higher and higher. This is great writing.
Yeah. This was one of those and then what? And then what type of storytelling.
Yeah.
They're going home. And then what? An alien probe is wiping everything out. And then what? They have to travel back in time. And then what? To find some whales. And then what? The whales get away. And then what? They have to capture the whales. And then what? They got to go back.
It keeps going, man.
Every single time.
All the way to the end. It's
all the way.
And
the humor. The humor's great.
It's the fact that the stakes keep getting amped up. The pacing of this movie is very quick. This is a fast movie, even though it's a full-length film. It just
there's a lot of stuff going on.
My God, it's so good. I mean, everybody was on their marks from the writers on up. Everybody who touched this movie, it's a joy to watch. And I just now, after watching Picard, I really laugh at the scene on the bus with I forget the actor's name who played the punk with the music on the box, and it's like so cool. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good scene and that's a good character. And then all of a sudden he shows back up. What is it? 30 years later?
Yeah.
Or more? Oh. So freaking funny.
On a bus, this time with, I think it was 7 to 9 and Rafi. Yeah. So.
I just really like that song. Yeah, he's not listed on the main.
Yeah, I forget what his name is. But anyway, let's rewind it a bit, folks. This takes, I think this movie was made sometime in the 80s. Forget what year exactly, mid 80s or so.
86.
As David said, 86. As Dave said, that the crew was heading home to be court-martialed. Well, I mean, they blew up the Voyager. They did a lot of things. The list is long, but I mean,
there's a lot of shit they did. First, they stole a ship, and then they blew the ship up.
But it's all forgiven if you can save the world.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I mean, really.
At some point, you got to start forgiving.
Yeah. So that's how the movie starts. They're on their way home, and this probe has just rendered everything out of order and has stopped at Earth, and it's broadcasting a signal that the Enterprise finally interprets as whale song. Whales had gone extinct on Earth. So, message, and this movie is full of it. But it's so well done. It's so well done.
Yeah, I was going to say, but it's
so well done.
None of it felt really heavy-handed.
Not a bit, but when you look at it, it's like, oh, look at you. Well done. Well done. And this is the
Yeah.
more you see it, the more you hear it, the more it's like, oh, that was pretty smart. And that's the way I like to see a message in a movie creatively.
Yeah.
So
I, what's funny is for such a serious tone, they got the humor from the original series back with the moments to lighten everything up. There's a point where they're back in time. They've come back to the late 20th century. They somehow figure out whale song because I think they're picking it up with
mhm.
their radio communicators. Just whatever whales are doing, they can hear it. And they have to land in the park, and it's nighttime, and the ship is cloaked, so you don't see it landing. It's blowing the shit out of the garbage cans and everything, and everybody's like, "Oh, what the hell? What was that wind from?" And and Kirk and everybody comes off the ship after there's nobody in the park. They come down the ship, and the cloak, you can't see it. They're coming down the stairs, and as they're walking across the park, Kirk's like, "Everybody remember where we parked?" like like
It's
you
little
would as
stuff
a
like
dad,
that.
remember where we parked. But it was just one of those it was a throwaway line, but it's so funny because it's something
Yeah,
you gotta say when your ship is
exactly.
cloaked and you can't see it. You better remember where you're parked at.
Yeah, there's so much good in this. I mean, the humor is what does it, but as we said earlier, it just keeps upping the stakes.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, even with the Klingons again, boy, they are hell bent on destroying Kirk. Their honor has been tarnished, and even though they killed Kirk's son and fired first, they they are
They don't
so
look at it
hard
that way.
headed.
Because it was the Genesis missile. They
Yeah,
didn't call it the
it
Genesis
wasn't.
device. It was the
Yep.
Genesis missile.
Because that's how the Klingons would think. This
Yeah,
is a weapon of war, not something to create.
right.
Whereas the scientists were trying to create. So I think it's really well done. That again, we're
Yeah.
seeing wonderfully written Klingons that are holding to this morality system that they have, and it's really interesting. Our belief
And
system.
that guy was a big time character actor. I'm looking for his name right
Yeah,
now.
he sounded
Um,
and looked familiar. I mean, except for the
John
head.
John Shook is his name. He's a really big guy. And in sometime in the 80s, I believe they did a remake of The Munsters, and he played Herman Munster. But he
Okay.
was also a big time character actor on Mary Tyler Moore. I think he shows up on the Bob Newhart show
Oh
back in
damn.
the day. And a lot of character actor stuff. I think he shows up on Barney Miller at one point. So he's a character actor. When he showed up as a Klingon, I was like, how did that guy get to be a Klingon? But when you see him, you're like, okay, yeah, okay, he
Yeah,
plays a pretty good Klingon,
he does. He does.
because he's just pissed.
Well, he embodied the Klingons well, and that's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
how
he
they
did a
would
good
be.
job.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, that was a good character just to have such a small part. And I think he shows up again. Is it Undiscovered Country
I think
where he
you're
shows up
correct.
again?
Yeah, because that is where they're actually on trial.
Yeah, I want to say that he shows up one more time, and I think that's pretty interesting. But when they finally Kirk split everybody up into teams. The lithium. Here's another thing: the dilithium crystals on the Klingon ship have deteriorated.
Yeah. So here's another. We got no fuel.
We got no fuel to get home. We can't even move. This thing is on borrowed time as far as keeping cloaked because we're running on battery power or whatever they're doing. It's like
Yeah.
eventually this thing's going to uncloak and we're fucked. But they're like, okay, we can Spock figures out a way, and it's the Eddie Murphy way of regenerating crystals. And every time I hear Spock say how he's going to do it, I think of Eddie Murphy on his stand-up routine when he's like, "Well, you just take the phasers, you point the phasers at the thing, and it regenerates. It's fine." Well, yeah, just might work. It worked last week, motherfucker. So every time Spock talks about it, I just start laughing. But they
That is
figure out they
funny.
can go steal some kind of radiation thing that's going on if they can find a nuclear reactor.
On a
So,
nuclear vessel.
and a nuclear vessel. And so they send
Poor
Walter
Pavel.
Koenig as Chekhov and Uhura. they're going to go to find the nuclear vessel because it's probably the easiest way to do it. Instead of beaming into a, I don't know, an unguarded freaking
reactor,
reactor,
power plant.
They're gonna go to like a really high secured Navy vessel. But that scene, from what I've understand and what I've read, the scene when those two are walking around asking people for directions, none of those people are actors. They're just people walking by. And I'm sitting there thinking, if that's the truth, then how in the hell did nobody recognize these people? You're in San Francisco.
Right?
There's got to be,
especially in their clothes.
And they're in the but they didn't have their numbers on. And from what I understand, that was all like street shot. Like they didn't have permits to do it. They were like, go talk to people. The cop was really a cop just standing there looking at him like, really? Didn't say anything. The lady, I think she gets a part because she actually spoke to them.
Yeah.
I think somebody had to run her down and get her to sign a non-disclosure or whatever.
You speak, you get paid.
But she actually was giving them directions like, oh, nuclear what? Yeah, I think they're over across the bay. And they're like, the nuclear vessels. And she's like, that's what they said, nuclear vessels. Just so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
And they're there, they got the thing, they got to regenerate the crystals. Then they have to go. What do you think whenever Scotty has to go to talk to the guy with
I love that scene. I love it. He is just like, he's got this guy on his toes, because he's like some big wig from Scotland, this big professor, and they've messed up the itinerary, and he's acting like he's all mad. And this guy's like, oh, he's all nervous. But he's like, he works out a trade. He needs to build a tank for the humpback people. I mean, whales.
We're going to get some humpback people. No,
yeah, I love that. That's my favorite line in the movie. That and doctor gave me a pill. I grew a new kidney.
Yeah, lady. Thank you, doctor. As he's running, they're running down the hallway. Thank you.
Oh, that lady was great. But I forgot where I was even going with that. But it's
he has to make a deal with the guy.
Yeah. And he goes to the computer, and it's an old Apple II. It's not old at the time, people. 86, This was top of the line. Yeah, and he's like, computer. And Bones hands him the mouse. Here, try this. And so he's holding the mouse. Computer. And then there's just use the keyboard. How quaint.
Yeah, like, oh, how quaint. And he does.
And then he's just, now, this is what's amazing. The typing speed of Scotty with 2 fingers to punch out these mathematical formulas in 10 seconds is amazing for transparent aluminum.
The Mac at the time could figure it out so quickly.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I mean, the Macs were a good machine, so, but still.
I just like how the guy's looking over his shoulder and he's like, his eyes get really big.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? He's like, would that be worth something to you?
And that's one of the things from that actor on to everybody else. Everybody was good. There was so much conveyed a lot of times with just an expression or eye movement and stuff like it was just, it's a well done movie. It is. There's no, I don't think there's any real fighting in it at all. There's no star combat.
No.
There's a phaser fired at a door.
Yeah.
That's it. That is literally it. This is the most action filled Star Trek I've seen.
You know what? When you really think about it, because for an action film, it didn't have action in it, but it felt like it was had exciting. A ton of action because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
And I so dug it. And they were out of their element. Like when Kirk and them are crossing the street and the guy honks the horn.
Yeah.
Down the road, dumbass. And Kirk turns around. Double dumbass on you. And everybody's like, yeah, double dumbass on you, pal. And they're like, I can't believe that. You yell at our captain. But they are in a starship fighting Klingons. They are on the money, man. They know their shit. Put them in a planet, 200 years in the past.
And that's what's crazy. And that's exactly how it would be, man. That's exactly how they would be.
That's so
And even Kirk realizes, like, you break it up. You look like a cadet review, you know?
yeah. And then he turns around to look at him, and they're still just kind of muggling. He's like,
It's so funny. And that's just it. There's so many little moments in it that just make this movie a joy to
yeah,
watch. And I can't recommend it enough to any Star Trek fan at all. No matter
yeah,
what series is your favorite, go watch this.
yeah.
It's wonderful. That's my take on it.
That's all I can say about it. I mean, I've talked about this movie, and you and I think, have talked about this movie before
I've
we
seen it.
decided to
I
review
can't
it.
count. I lost count a long time ago.
And I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie because
Yeah,
I love this movie.
it's a good
Not
one.
nearly as many times as I've seen Wrath of Khan, but this movie is it's
Closing
good.
in.
It's funny. It's got a lot of humor in it, but it's got like a nice serious undertone. And McCoy is at his most McCoy,
He is. Now,
especially in the hospital.
yeah. Yes. Oh my God. He just can't hold his tongue any longer
What is
with
this, the
hearing.
Spanish Inquisition?
Well, what would you do? And he's like, I'd do all this. And then he
Yeah,
fixes Pavel. So
yeah.
it's like,
Just looking at the guy. What are you, crazy?
they witnessed a miracle today. And,
Yeah,
that's one of the things that they break the Prime Directive so hard in this movie, which is
yeah,
wild. But, and I think is it McCoy? Was it McCoy who brought up no, it was Spock who brought up the glasses that McCoy had
yeah,
gotten
yeah, yeah.
Kirk. He's like, aren't those a gift? And he's like, that's the beauty of it. They will be again.
They will be again. And you're like, well, how the hell did they get taken out of this time space continuum
Yeah.
at that point? But you know what? That's one of those things that you can't really think about because you're like, but he's got him on, so he's got it. He got him. But where the hell did they come from?
That's where it gets crazy. That's where it gets, we could poke holes in it, but it's really cool. Spock leaning into his humanity much more because he has
Yeah,
to. And I love that they show that at the beginning with his mom asking him, how do you feel? And
yeah.
so it just makes that ending scene with Sarek really, really cool. Any message for your mother? Tell her I feel fine. And it's like, that was good.
And I like that play between him and Sarek because through the whole series and through everything you ever see Sarek, you're always like, this guy's kind of a numbskull, man. What a pain. But he
But no.
actually looks at his son. He's like, very basically he tells Spock, I love you and I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Well,
And you're like,
I thought it
holy
was very
crap.
obvious in the last one that he,
Oh yeah. Yeah. He was gonna break some prime directives
yeah.
in
Yeah.
that one.
Oh,
So yeah,
absolutely.
that's a good one. That was a good character development for him too.
Well, that and seeing Spock go all the way, Spock had quite a rebirth and had to come
Mhm.
back. And I
Right.
really like it at the court martial where he gets up and joins his captain
Mhm.
and his team.
Yeah.
And there's so many good writing decisions in this movie. I can't really I have no complaints.
Right. No, no,
No.
this was about as perfect a script as I think you can get.
Yeah, it
I
hits
think.
all the beats, man, and it hits them hard. So, which
Nails
is
them
good. Yeah.
right out of the park. So
There you
yeah,
go,
folks,
folks.
if you like Star Trek and if you like old school Star Trek and you like Kirk and Spock and the original gang, this is it. This show is for you,
And
especially if
if
you
you
like the
haven't seen it,
humor of
go
Star
watch it.
Trek. Yeah,
We just
yeah.
spoiled it, but go watch it anyway because
Watch it
this is
anyway.
one that I continue to watch and I know exactly how it's going. I sit there and quote the damn movie as it's playing. So it's
I do
just
the
one of
same
those things.
thing.
Yep.
I do the exact same thing.
Know exactly when the lines are coming. So
Yep.
it's just like, wow, I've seen this more than I thought.
Like talking to an old friend.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Good way to
Yeah.
put it. So
Comfort.
there you go, folks. We're heading back into music land with who knows what's coming, but we will
Oh,
see. We will see a couple music movies, and then we'll come back to the stars. We will return to Star Trek with Star Trek V, the Undiscovered Country. No, that's not it. Is it the
that's
Final Frontier?
Final
I don't know.
Frontier.
What is five?
I think it's
Is
Final
five the final?
Frontier.
And then 6, The Undiscovered Country.
Right.
So stick around. We'll have some things coming your way. So thanks again for joining us. Hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe. Drop us a line. Say hi. Tell us a movie you want us to talk about, and we'll definitely do it. So have a good one, folks.
We've done it before.
We have.